Hi crafters, it's Chris from Crafts with Chris, and thanks for stopping by my channel. If you are new here, I do offer crafting tutorials, mostly using Stampin' Up products, and I would love for you to hit that red subscribe button, and don't forget to ring that bell so you do get notifications of my most recent videos. So let's go ahead and get started with that adorable card. So I am using two stamp sets today, Basket of Blooms. We're going to use this one, and also Best Year. I'm also using some dies today. I'm using the Best Plaid Builder dies. So you get two dies in this set. So for your cardstock today, you will need a piece of Pool Party. This is measured A2 size, so it's 5.5 by 8.5, fold at 4 1/4. You also will need a scrap piece of Whisper White. We're going to do some stamping on here, and we're going to be doing some punching. Also will need a piece of Pretty Peacock. This here I've cut at 5 1/4 by 8.5. It needs to be big enough for your Best Plaid Builder dies. Also will need a piece of Balmy Blue. Again, it needs to be big enough to cut out the Plaid Builder dies. So your Plaid Builder dies, you get two of them in the set. And they measure about 4 1/4 to almost 6. So they are quite large, but they are pretty cool when you when we die cut these. So for your ink today, you will need Magnetic Madness, Old Olive, Bermuda Bay, and Tuxedo Black. So I'm going to bring in that piece of Whisper White, and we're going to do all our stamping. The first thing you're going to need is your Tuxedo Black ink, and in your stamp set here there's this long tall vase. We're going to use that. You just want to go ahead and ink that up with your Tuxedo Black, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp this not right at the corner because we're going to be using a die to cut that out, but I'll stamp it right here. We will be using the stitched shape rectangles to cut this out. So I'm going to bring in my Old Olive ink, and for this next part I'm bringing a post-it note here, and I'm just going to stick this post-it note right over the top of the vase and where the top is, because we're going to do some stamping and I don't want my vase to get the stems of the leaves in here. So this post-it note I can see through, so I know where to stamp. If you can't see through your post-it note, you may want to just mark with a pen or a pencil where the ends of the vases are. So in this stamp set, there's this long vine. I'm going to go ahead and use that first. I'm going to ink that up with my Old Olive, and I'm going to go ahead and just stamp it out of the vase, just like so. So in this set, there is this other leaf design. We're going to use that. I'm going to ink that up again with the Old Olive. You're going to want to watch where you put your leaves, because you don't want them to look like they're over here floating out of the vase. So I'm going to stamp one set on that side, and then I'm going to bring this set over here and stamp it. So you will overlap, but that's fine. So we're done stamping our leaves. Then you just want to pull that off, and then you have your flowers that are sticking out of the vase. I'm going to turn my Whisper White upside down so I can do the rest of my stamping down here, because I want to cut that out. So I want to make sure I'm not stamping in this space. I've got my Magnetic Madness ink and the Bermuda Bay. So again, out of our Basket of Blooms, you have these two larger flowers here. So we're going to go ahead and stamp these out. I'm going to take and stamp out two of the Magnetic Madness flowers. And I'm going to stamp them right down towards the bottom, because I'm going to use the punch to punch those out. And then you're going to take the other design flower and you're going to stamp that out in Bermuda Bay. And I'm just going to turn my Whisper White to the side here. Then I'm going to take the Best Year stamp set. This actually coordinates with your Best Plaid Builder dies. There's a Happy Birthday to You. I'm using that stamp, and I'm going to ink it up in the Magnetic Madness, and I'm just going to stamp it along the edge here because I'm going to use a punch to punch this out. So don't stamp it real close to the bottom. So I'm using the stitched shape rectangle dies. So as you can see, I have one missing here. So we're going to use that to cut out your vase. So that actually is the fourth smallest one. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to go ahead and cut out the vase with your die cutting machine. So we have your vase cut like this. Don't worry if you cut off the tips of the leaves here. We're actually going to be putting some flowers on there and kind of covering them up. Next, we're going to bring in our stamped flowers here. You're going to use the small bloom punch, and you're just going to line those up and just punch those 3 flowers right out. And then our last bit that we stamped, the happy birthday to you, you want to use your timeless label punch and just punch that right out. Just center that and punch that out. We're just going to set all those guys aside for right now. I'm going to go ahead and bring in those 2 pieces of Pretty Peacock and Balmy Blue. And you're going to bring in your 2 dies that come in this set. So I'm taking the more detailed die. That's going to be cut out with the Pretty Peacock. And this die here, this actually cuts out like a tic-tac-toe pattern. So that's going to go on the Balmy Blue. So you're going to want to go ahead and run both these through your die cutting machine. So with this one here, these squares just pop out, and you want to hang on to these squares because you can use them on something. So just go ahead and set them aside for another project. And then this die here is more detailed. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in our foam mat here, and we're going to set this on top. You're just going to take your die brush, just go over this. This should knock off most, if not all, the pieces here. So as you can see, I still have a bunch of pieces in here. So I'm just going to put it back in my die, line it up, and then flip it over and just do the die brush over it again. Most of them came out, and I just kind of give it a good flick. And if you have a lot more in there, you could put the die on there again, or you can take your Take-A-Pick tool and just kind of poke those pieces out. This is what the cardstock looks like once you use both the Best Plaid builder dies. Like I said, that kind of looks like tic-tac-toe. And then this is going to layer right on top, and it just creates a really cool effect. And then you layer that on top of a card base. It's really neat. So I'm bringing back in this piece that we stamped here, and we're going to do some coloring. So these leaves here, I'm going to take my old olive, I'm going to squeeze it. If you don't want to do that, you can also take a drop of the re-inker and put it on a block and use that. But I'm going to use this as my palette, and I'm going to bring in the new water painters. I love how there's 3 of them now. So I'm going to use the smallest tipped one, and I'm going to just squeeze a little tiny bit of water. I don't want it too watery in here. And pick up some of that ink, and you're just going to color over these leaves in here. So once you have that all colored, then don't forget, before you put this away, to just clean off your tip. All you have to do is squeeze water through the barrel, and you can use it on any surface. I also like to bring in my Stampin' Scrub. I'll just do it on the Stampin' Scrub. And then once the tip is clean, then you can just go ahead and put it away. And just to let you guys know, these do get stained by using your inks, but it's not going to affect your coloring. When you go to use this, you will color whatever color inks you're using. As long as you clean it each time, there won't be any of the old ink residue left behind. So I've got my Stampin' Blends. I'm using light and dark smoky slate, coloring the vase with the light smoky slate. Going to take my dark smoky slate, and I'm just going to go over the lines just to give it that shading. So I'm going to bring in the Pool Party card base. I've already folded it in half. So I'm going to take my Pretty Peacock. That's going to go over the top. As you can see, when we lay this down, it is bigger than our card base. With this, if you line this up, this top part and this bottom part are the same. And those you can trim right off. So you're going to have a nice even pattern here. You could run it through your dies, but the problem is if you don't center it properly, then it's going to be off on the front of your card. So I just found this was easier to glue it down and then just trim it with my paper snips. And what I used to glue this down was the liquid glue. And all I did was put a little bit on each of the squares here and then just glued it to the card base. It's enough glue on there to hold it. You're not going to have issues with it coming up. So then you're just going to glue this to the front of the card. And again, like I said, you're going to leave that top part and then the bottom part hanging off your card base. What's nice about the liquid glue is if it doesn't line up properly, you have a little bit of time to wiggle it and move it around to where you need it before it sets. So then I'll just go ahead and just make sure I press down these squares. And then with this piece here, I'm going to again use the liquid glue. I'm just going to use the glue on the whole piece here because I don't want any of these pieces to come up. Then I'm going to take my tweezers and I'm just going to use this to set this down on top of my card base here. See how it lines up. It makes little squares inside the bigger squares there. It'll look like this, and then you can see in the background your pool party. So isn't that so cool? I think this is going to look really nice on some winter cards too. So now I'm just going to take my paper snips and I'm just going to trim these ends off. It's real simple to do. You just follow the line there. While I have my liquid glue out, I'm just going to apply this to the vase that we colored. And this fits perfectly right in the center of this card in between these squares here. So I've gone ahead and put Stampin' Up! Dimensionals on my tag and on my flowers. My tag just kind of covers the bottom of the vase. And then I'm going to take my flowers and I'm going to put one up at the top and then the two of the same colors I'm going to put at the side. So it kind of covers up those leaves a little bit. And isn't that card so cute? But I said, you know what? It needs some kind of bling on it. So that's where these beautiful, elegant, faceted gems come in play. So I'm going to take the smaller pink here in the middle. And we're going to put those right on the two pink flowers. And then for this one here, there's clear white and then you have the sparkly white. So I'm going to take the smaller of the sparkly white. I'm going to put that in the center of that flower. So those gems are really pretty if you guys haven't purchased them yet. So that's it to that card. And then on the inside, if you want to put a piece of Whisper White in here to finish it off, you can go ahead and do that. But I love this set. I love these dies. I'm going to leave all the information in the link of the video as to where you can get your hands on all of these products. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Please subscribe below and don't forget to ring that bell. I also offer a newsletter that I would love for you to sign up for. You will get 30 free card ideas just for signing up. Thanks for watching.